Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric and another day of Countdown to Christmas 2021. Today's topic is going to be on aprons. And yes, this is one of those places that I definitely now use the canvas drop cloths that I've been talking about. Years ago, I made a number of aprons for my husband and my kids and I. I've used everything from, and of course I'll try to find photos to include. I've used everything from denim to upholstery fabric. I have used some really wonderful tablecloth type of fabric that I over-dyed. I made matching ones. I find aprons to be really quite useful to have on hand. They are perfect, not just for those of us that are in the kitchen cooking or cleaning up, but when you have company come over and, sometimes after you've had a big meal or something of that nature and the company says, oh, let me help you clean up. Yes, it does still happen. I see jokes all the time about the person in the kitchen going, where's the people who said they would help clean up? But when somebody wants to help clean up, or somebody drops in and you invite them for dinner, but maybe they are wearing clothing, you're worried your chili is going to stain their clothes, aprons are really great to have on hand, especially when they're just a standard chef style apron, because male or female, shove them on and it can help protect their clothing. So I'm a huge fan of aprons. I keep saying a few years ago, and it's now been almost a decade. But a few years ago, we made some Christmas themed aprons. My daughter pulled out a pattern and made a big frilly one that was totally retro 1950s. I made my son a chef's apron with some adorable machine embroidery Christmas design on it. So I've gone through a number of aprons. I use aprons when I spin my yarn. So in a number of my spinning videos, you'll see me wearing a tie-dyed apron. And yes, it is from the Canvas Painter's drop cloth. Because it is fabulous fabric for this utility item. But whether or not you're making it out of fancy fabrics that are Christmas themed or utilitarian fabrics for durability, I think they're gifts that are truly appreciated and useful in the giving. I think we moved away from aprons because, as a society, mainly because we started wearing clothing that we weren't so worried about needing intense care. But I am a messy person. I craft messy, I cook messy, I love chocolate and chocolate stains. Therefore, I tend to keep aprons on hand. So, let's get to it. I'll start with, and I, of course, will be, again, always showing photos, especially when there's words on it that may or may not be reversed, depending on how my understanding of my software goes. But this is one that I have recently made up. It's a design that I've wanted to use for a few years and finally took the time, and it has a big pocket. I go with extra long ties so that it can be wrapped around twice and tied. My tinier, daintier friends, if I were making it specifically for them, I'd probably shorten my strap a little, because I'm pretty sure this would wrap around my 20-year-old self twice. So it's comfortable for my not 20-year-old self, and that's what's important today. But I basically, in this case, I started off with a basic outline for a chef's type apron. I didn't even have a pattern for it. I just drew what I thought would be a chef's apron pattern, and I've just replicated it over and over again over the years. I've made some adorable adjustments depending on who I'm making it for. I have a couple here that are more for, this one is great for, it's a guy's type shape. It works for anybody, but I discovered the chef's apron is not always the best apron for the female body when they are rather large on top. In short, it didn't cover our chest. Mine, it was iffy, my daughter. I needed to make some adjustments. So this past year, I have learned to I redesigned my basic chef's apron, and instead, I now have a pleated at the top. So I widened, all I did, just if you're curious, you can basically buy an apron from, an inexpensive apron from a, big box store, wherever, crafting store, and use it as a template. But this top part, okay, of your standard inexpensive apron, widen it. So get out some paper and just put a few extra inches where the, fold the apron over, put it on the paper, line this up with an edge, say it's your fold, so it's put on the fold of the fabric, and then widen it by increasing a few inches out from that line, so that you're widening it at the center, not at the arms. Once you've done that, you now have the fabric that can be pleated up and put in just a simple over top band. Okay? Really simple. Again, basic shape, but now you have a lot of fullness here at the top, which is much more flattering for the female figure. Whether the female figure is dainty or it's voluptuous, this apron looks much more frilly and wonderful. Otherwise, it's a basic apron. So this one has an applique. Again, I wanted to be able to show that there's different ways of embellishing. So this one, although it is machine applique, it could be applied on. I have some aprons in the past that I actually did something like that. It's really easy to, on a basic, make yourself a quilt block and fold under the edges and then sew it down on the top of your apron, and it's adorable. So you don't have to have a lot of technology. You can do it by hand. A basic straight stitch sewing machine, a zigzag's nice. All I do is roll under the edges twice, zigzag down. Actually, I didn't even, in this one, I cheated. I don't even roll it under twice. I have a serger or an overlock machine. I run that edge through that first. Then I simply fold it over once, run a zigzag stitch along it. Voila. Not difficult. So, straps, pocket. Oh yes, tip. The pocket. This nice little curved pocket detail. It's the waist fabric cut left over when you cut out the curve of the armhole. It's maybe a little easier to see here. So you see that curved piece? That leftover becomes the pocket. So when I cut this out, I have this little scrap, and it's the right size for a pocket. Alright, so in showing technique, this one has machine embroidery, but it also has acrylic paint. I found this adorable machine embroidery design, and I really liked it, but it didn't show up very well on the canvas. So, as I was machine embroidering, and I had an area of line stitched out, leaving it in the hoop, took it over and I painted inside the line. So I was using the machine embroidery lines as my painting canvas. And I did it while I was still working on step by step, so that I was painting under whatever the next design. Now, I say that, but this could easily be transferred, coloring book page, transferred onto the fabric, and then painted in with acrylic paints. It could be very simple to do that. So, again, it doesn't take a lot of technology to make something really cute. acrylic paint on this canvas works really well. And for an apron, it is fabulous. Goes through the wash just fine. So crayon, it's fuzzier lines. In this case, I would do a transfer and I would use acrylic paints. But again, we have, so this one is the same pattern as this, okay? But you notice this has a lot of little pleats, whereas this has 2 very deep pleats. So that's what I love about this kind of pattern, is you can really play with how you do it. But for those of you that have basic understanding of sewing, you can really replicate this. Or if you're new to sewing it, find a pattern that is a basic, simple chef's apron pattern, and just where it says cut on the fold, extend it out a few inches, and then put a band over the top. It's fun. It's a fun craft. It's a fun project. Now, I have one more, and of course, I'm sure I'm showing you all the pictures here. This one does not have any embellishment yet on it. This was pieces of, we were using the drop cloth as a, what we, in clothing sewing world, a muslin. We were trying to figure out how to make something else. And so we were cutting out pieces and draping it and pinning it. And these were the initial pieces to a jumper that we were trying to design that didn't work out so well. And I didn't want to toss them. I didn't want to cut it down. It was nice big pieces. I didn't want to cut it down into bags. So I thought, how can I use this? So it's, if you think of a front panels and a back panel of a dress for a button, a jumper, or others call a pinafore style dress. It's a pinafore style dress that was too small. So what did I do? I cut out some extra pieces and I sewed on side panels so it was wider, but I didn't have to throw anything away. Then I just finished up the edges and I put snaps. And I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention in my crafting pantry list, but I have fallen in love with a thing called cam snaps. Plastic snaps. One of the big brands, and it's really wonderful, is Cam Snaps. It has a great applicator to put it into place. Snaps are so wonderful. And it's so much better than all the metal snaps I used to use. I do have metal snaps. I have used lots of grommets, but I love these plastic snaps. And what we did is we just put a few so that it opens, and the picture will show it better. But this one, I eventually put pockets on it. It is a crafting smock for my daughter. And she, ever since she was very little, she has loved pinafores, as we call them here in the United States, jumpers. She loves to wear them. She loves running around in them. She loves crafting in them. So it is way past time that I make her a new crafting smock, because she had them when she was younger and now she'll have them again. And if you notice, there's a little bit different color. Painter's drop cloth canvas, in most cases, is probably going to be 100% cotton. So it takes dye. And this was just really quick. Throw it in a pot of dye. And that's one of the other things I really love about using this, whether it was for the bags I talked about the other day, there's not the items that I use. I love the Painter's drop cloth canvas because it has so much potential if you're willing to just go that little extra step, throw in some color, throw on some design, and there you go. So aprons, quick projects, and in this case, instead of just necessarily, so I don't want to just go buy the standard inexpensive apron from the big box store. I also don't normally want to make frills of the retro aprons that we have patterns for. I want something that I can do very quickly. And this is a kind of project that at worst it would take me 2 days to make. Most of the time I could make it in less than a day. Whip it together. It takes me longer to cut it out, I think, than actually sewing all the seams. It's really a simple project. And it makes it a little more personalized, and more importantly, it makes it so it fits and it's flattering. And I love wearing aprons, especially over my big Christmas moo-moo nightgowns, which is what is under all the pictures I've been showing you of these aprons. That is my Christmas moo-moo nightgown. I have in the past made them out of flannel. I have made them out of cotton. And that is the one I made myself last year to match my granny doll that I have. And when I'm wearing that, it's my comfort clothing. And I put on an apron. And all of a sudden, I have an amazing figure. It's just wonderful to see what happens to the female human body when we put volumes of fabric on us and then put an apron over the top of it, a pinafore over the top of it, and all of a sudden we have been transformed to a different era, a different look, and have all the feminine curves that we could possibly want. So, aprons, they are a must for Christmas. I hope you enjoyed this this countdown video, and that you'll tune back in tomorrow for another one. Until then, have a wonderful day. Blessings to you. Happy holidays, and we'll see you again soon.